No, yeah, I know what you mean. Okay.
How did you approach the actress role for the escort?
For Chloe's character, we found an actress, Charlotte Kirk, and the funny thing about Chloe's character is she came in later into when we were developing the story, and we knew we wanted. It's a very tricky role because the way I see it is that she's the hero of the story, and I think that's very important to see it that way. And she's just in circumstances that are, not ideal. So when we found Charlotte Kirk, we just thought she could bring something to it that maybe was not written there, and she was very strong and everything else, and it was great watching her develop that. I just want to note as well that there's a bunch of people in the audience here today, but Adam Ambrosio is our composer. He's over there. He's got the camera, but he did an incredible job on the music. And I also want to thank there's a number of other people too, but Nick Capper right here too did our behind the scenes in Alexa as well. So they were there, very talented filmmakers right there, and I want to thank them as well because they really went out of their way to help us. Okay.
Actually, there's another question here, but I want to ask you how you work with your composer. So go on.
I thought it was pretty cool how in the beginning when they were their partners, are they related? Are they brothers or? Yeah. Okay, so I thought it was cool how the first story they wrote when after they got turned out by first Valor and told them to fix it up. They were before that when they were explaining the brothers and how I feel like that story kind of played out through the entire movie. How did you come up with that whole mindset?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. As Robin and I were putting the story together, we knew we wanted to work on 3 different levels. There's the level of the story that they're penning, which they're trying to get closer to the entire time. The story, the way that the story is playing out in reality, which is what Mickey's choice is, right? But also the story that he's watching as well on his television in that film. So there's those different levels operating there, and that was important to us. Getting them close enough that they were, not tipping anything off, but also that there's sort of an obsessive layering to the 3 of them, that they're happening concurrently, and that they're all relevant. We thought was an interesting concept that we hadn't really seen before in the movies. So that's a very good question.
There's a biblical level there too. You know the story of Jacob and Esau, where there are 2 brothers, and one of them gets the family.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, he gets the father's blessing instead of the other one, and it's a similar kind of rivalry between brothers. Yeah.
You said you considered Chloe to be the hero of the story. I was just wondering why you say that.
That's a very good question, and that was the conversation I had first with Charlotte Kirk, who we had played Chloe. I just think that the way that we wanted to build these characters was that they're all extremely flawed. There's nobody that's straight up good. There's nobody that's really straight up bad, and that's a theme that goes throughout, and it's part of where the genesis of the idea came from. But I personally think that Chloe's character is the best person, and I think she's also trying to help. She's trying to save, and maybe she fails or maybe she doesn't. But that question at the end it is important of what she does next, and all those those different kinds of things. But that's why I think Chloe's the hero, and I always loved her character just for that reason.
No, I love it. I did once have something that, I don't know if I missed it. How come after he was robbed, he still left the key under there?
Okay, it's a very good question.
Notice that?
That's a very good question. Yeah, you have to ask Ray that. That's a very good question.
No, I figured he'd come in through the window.
Right.
Which seems to be the thing he does. But, the key is there.
Yeah.
Okay, just what I asked.
That's a good point, though.
That, go on.
Well, the first time he was robbed, was the door left open?
Yeah. The door was left open. Yeah, it was left open. Yeah.
All right.
So what's the trail with the film as far as auditions are?
Okay, so we're premiering the film at the Manhattan Film Festival, which we're very excited about. That's April 27th. And we've also been submitting to a number of other things as well. And the feedback's been great on it. So we're just going on that journey to, yes, and get a distributor and everything else the traditional way. very good on our track to do that so far.
I don't think so. Yeah.
You said you were an alumni, right?
Yes, yes I am.
Did you shoot locally?
Yes, we did, and actually you can see a lot of those locations. Yeah, we saw Tierney's Tavern, and also we shot at Montclair State. Actually, Roberta helped us with that. That crime scene was done entirely in Montclair State. I'm glad you maybe didn't notice that, didn't connect that, because I was very worried about that at the time. Also, the scenes where they're driving was done right around the campus over here, because it wound up being the easiest way of putting some of those things together. But when me and Robert had built the script, we had decided to use a couple of the resources that we knew we had available to us. And we said for a crime scene, we thought a parking lot would be very interesting, and I said, I got a parking lot. We sort of took a page out of Robert Rodriguez's book there and said, what are the 10 places we think we can get? We knew we can get Tierney's Tavern, we knew we could get those, and we built the story around them in a lot of ways, which is a good way of sort of getting things going in terms of your locations, which is a very challenging part of it.
Well, you had a lot of locations in this.
Yes, we did. We definitely did. And on a budget like that, it's very hard. We just went into shops and places like that, and some of them knew who Michael Rispoli was, and they said, "I love The Sopranos. I love everything about it. Like, can you just bring him down here, but like let me take a picture with him?" And I was like, "Yes, okay, of course." And they didn't charge us in a lot of cases. But I think that's the magical thing about locations too, is that if you just go into someplace and you just ask them, you know, maybe you'll get turned down. But that's part of this is just finding the people that want to help you and everything else. And if everybody says no in the town, but the one person says yes, then you succeeded. That's part of the craziness of getting locations. But it happens, especially these small towns too, like Montclair. These guys are always willing to have you come in and shoot. But that's what happened with us with the butcher shop. They loved Michael Rispoli, so they said just come in.
Oh yeah, how come there's bare hand? Butchers really there? I'm sorry.
No. This is good. This is good.
You've seen the film twice.
Yes.
And I go,
We talked to Jimmy, the owner, about that, and he just said there's different ways of doing it. Actually, yeah, and going to my point, the butcher shop guy was so excited that he was giving Michael pointers on how to cut the meat. Yes, it was very funny because he had like the whole town in there, and they were all saying, "Yeah, this is how you cut the meat, Michael." I don't know, so it was funny, but it's realism. Yeah, there are many of them.
yeah.
I might have been the only person that felt like this, but during the robbery scene, when we walked into someone's house, ransacked their apartment, ransacked, I had the feeling that Mickey kind of had played a role in it. I mean, I don't know what it was, but they argued about changing the script, and then they argued.
That's an interesting point.
I didn't know if you guys ever like flirted with that, or you just wanted to have Mickey deal with it.
No, I never really thought about that, but that's an interesting point too. There's a lot of different things that people pick up on in different ways of taking the story. That's interesting.
So I want to ask you, yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, did you ever think that your viewers would question how your two main characters knew each other? Because I noticed watching the movie that was never really addressed. So I was wondering if you ever thought about that, or did you want that to kind of remain in this?
Yeah, you know how they knew each other. That's a good point. When we talked, or when I first started talking to Michael and Patch, they asked a lot about that, and we felt it was better just to make them these two guys that are from the streets. You know, you can't really place anything about them except for the fact that you know, they're just sort of down and out and everything else, and they're sort of both from that world, so they almost have, you know, it's sort of just what it is and how they were defined. But that's an interesting point. They just seem very close and all these other things, and we worked that into the performances and talking about that, but I didn't want to necessarily address it there because it's almost like a brotherhood that they have, and it's sort of unsaid, but they're indicated. Yeah, exactly,
You know,
and that sort of thing too. Yeah, the streets sort of define them.
Yeah. What would you say was the biggest challenge you had in going from making a short to making a feature?
Okay, the biggest challenge, there's a lot of them. There's really a lot of them in terms of financing and many different other things that we could barely even get into in this time slot. But making a short film is like the art of having a contained moment in some ways, or having a contained idea. And when you get into making a feature, it becomes about building a world. A little more so, I think, than when you have to just deal with a short and you can deal with just those 15 minutes or whatever it is. I think the challenging thing is probably a lot of different kinds of things, but I think having the storytelling be engaging and having it weave in and out, and then also keeping track of those threads for your characters, because let's say there's a line that changes. Suddenly, the thread goes throughout. Michael Rispoli was very big on this, that when you have one thing here, it could unravel the entire trajectory of where the characters are going if they don't say this thing, or they say that thing. And he was very big on how you attack that script and how you stay with the story, because he was so, he really loved the script, and he was really into trying to be on top of that. But that's an interesting challenge of how you keep that through line, and also how you tell just a larger story. There's more characters that come into play, and how that tonally works is an interesting challenge, and it's very different than making a short in that sense. Yeah.
Actually, you didn't need that many extras, did you?
No, not really. Yeah, we built it.
One.
Yeah, we built it to be sort of like that, where we didn't have to do too many extras. It was mostly 2 guys in a room, 3 people in a room.
But you didn't miss it, and
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
Yes.
Sometimes when people don't have extras, or a lot of extras, the film feels very empty.
Yes.
You know, doesn't, a little bit too strict minimum.
Right.
But you don't feel that with your film. It actually works.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think when we were, again, going back to the script phase of when we were conceptualizing everything and putting it together, we felt that a psychological thriller, or something that was inside of someone's mind, was an engaging way of taking the audience from A to Z, but without having to do it with a lot of different things. And that concept, or a lot of different places, a lot of different resources. So that concept was intriguing to us, and it was a way of doing low budget in a manageable way.
Yeah, no, I think that really works with it, yeah.
Yes, so would you agree that with Nick's character, he sort of starts out as a passionate writer to this drug addict? It's like his greatest passion has become his greatest fear. I mean, would you agree with that?
His greatest passion has become his greatest fear.
Yeah. Maybe his greatest enemy in some way.
Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely, I think so. It's, his obsessions have taken hold of him, yeah. And I think that's a concept, again, that was part of why we wanted to make this, was the fact that, where's too far, and how far can you go to try to create something and everything else. So it is his fears and everything being realized, yeah. And yeah, that's an interesting point, yeah.
Can you say something? Oh, go on. Are you raising your hand up there?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
You were my cinematography class a year ago.
Oh, I was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. It's actually really hard to see you back there because there's like barely any light. But
Yeah.
hello. I'm
Hi.
sure I recognize you, but so I can up close.
I mean, I had shorter hair. This is a conversation for another time.
Got it.
Did you, watching the film, it was good, by the way.
Thank you.
Watching the film, did you ever feel like, making it, I guess, or writing it? Okay. You never felt like there were too many elements going on? Like it was a little crowded? Because it felt like that sometimes. Not in a bad way, just sometimes it felt like there was too much happening for it to stay cohesive.
Too many elements. That's an interesting point. I'm trying to think of what to say to that. I think I think it's the way that we want it to work. So I definitely see where you're coming from with that. But I think, as I was saying to this gentleman over here, the multiple layers of storytelling was important to us, and how those came together. That's an interesting point, though, because it was a challenge writing those and having them come cohesively together. Was interesting, and what is reality versus what is Mickey's reality. So that's a very interesting point. I think that's very valid.
Working with your, oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, can you tell us just a little bit about your prior film history, 1912?
Yeah. Okay, so he's asking about what I did prior. So of course I went to school here. I started making short films, sort of independent of film classes. The first one I made, I raised the money for it when I was working at McDonald's when I was 16 or 17 years old. And I always say that my first film was brought to you by McDonald's because of that. But anyway, it's corny. So I wound up pitching the short film, this is before I went into Film One, to a production company in New York. They wound up really liking the script, and they helped me put it together. So I would say that was my first foray into making films. That was my short film, Midnight Catch, which opened at the Manhattan Film Festival, actually, and that was 2013. We just went on from there. We kept making short films. We had another short that was honored at the Screen Actors Guild Short Film Showcase for diversity in casting. A number of other things, and that premiered to members of their union. So we just kept making SAG deferred, student deferred short films, and I think the guy that worked at SAG was very surprised that students were going out and doing this so much. And he said, like, for all this paperwork, it's it's just a lot. Yeah, we just kept going, and a lot of the times they overlapped with the movies I was making for class. Sometimes they didn't, and we would just go out and make something because we wanted to make something, and we were able to access equipment that we couldn't. So then from there, we had films go. We had a film open at Los Angeles International Short Film Festival, and a number of other ones as well. Cannes Short Film Corner. We had 2 films go there, and a number of other places as well. So we decided to build a production company, and actually the Depths is shot entirely on equipment that our company owns. So it's camera, sound, lighting, the whole thing, and that's been another leg of what we're doing, as well as right now we're developing a number of other feature scripts and everything else, and we also have a web series which I think is mentioned on your pages right over there too, called Film Valor. Which is really cool for...
Which is posted to your canvas?
It's posted to your canvas. I don't know what your canvas is, but it's posted there. Is that a thing? That's a new thing, right?
It's a blackboard.
Oh, it's a canvas. Okay, that's cool though. So it's Film Valor is a series that we do for young filmmakers, and it could definitely apply to you guys as well. It's behind the scenes of what we do, but it's also different strategies for tackling things and everything else. So you guys can check us out there, Film Valor on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, it was just a progression of gaining credibility. And even when I was in school, I submitted to festivals. We got into festivals, and we just worked very, very hard, to keep building up the company and building up everything that we were doing. That's a good question, though.
And just a couple more questions today. One, did you want to ask something?
No, I want to go back to the music that you kept on.
I was just, I keep coming.
Oh yeah, please talk about music.
How you worked with a composer who's out there.
Yes, okay, so Adam Ambrosio is an incredibly talented composer, and I'm not just saying that because he's here. He's an extraordinarily talented composer, and he's worked with me on every one of my films since we first really started. And what Adam had done to this movie was he found a way of making the silence and also the music work well together. And that's something I commend him for, because it's very minimalistic, it's extremely driving, and it's also eerie, it's scary, and it's almost like a heartbeat in a lot of places. So I credit him tremendously for that, because those are certainly not even conversations that we had, minor conversations about it, but Adam's the type of composer that'll bring you something and just say, check this out, like, let's just try this, and that's a great way of working. And he really lent the feeling, I think, to a lot of my films, but especially this one too.
No, it really worked, especially with the combination of silences and then, the music coming in and the style. Two things. One, the biggest challenge for you as a director, and certainly your challenges here. Nothing is perfect.
Yes.
No,
nothing's ever going to be perfect. That's right.
Not that the film isn't perfect.
No, but it's true. I think it's a good thing to note, though, too, because I think if you can just keep trying to make another film and another thing, you'll learn every time, and you never know what you're going to encounter with something, especially like this too. It's always challenging, and nothing about it comes automatically. You have to keep finding new systems and new ways of achieving things. So that's definitely part of it.
What was the biggest challenge for you with this movie? I mean, I know the actor and working with a known actor, but did anything go wrong?
Oh yeah, all the time. Well, what didn't go wrong? No, I think there was a lot of really challenging phases of it. I'm just trying to think of the most. I mean, there's, you know, they're competitive in the sense that there's so many different parts of it that were, you know, mind-numbingly hard, you know. But I guess it just, you know, I think the challenging thing was taking a team of people for that short amount of time, because it was only an 18-day shoot, and a lot of times we were actually ahead of schedule, which Michael was very surprised by. But taking that short amount of time and just trying to keep to the vision, especially when you're shooting in places like Weehawken and stuff like that, where there's no parking, and people start to get a little testy and stuff like that, which is natural. And so it was keeping together the unit, I think, is part of the biggest challenge of being a director, and certainly in making this movie, because it's sort of like leading a small army, and that can be challenging, and how those people interact with each other as well is extremely challenging, and you have to try to find a way of bridging those gaps between two people. That was the biggest challenge, I'd say, out of everything, I'd say.
That one of the things I think is important for you all to know, I know that you worked with a lot of people that you went to school with.
Yes, absolutely. There was a lot of people. Omar Portillo, we had Nick Bush, Nick Cappers right here. We had so many other people. It was mostly Montclair alumni. So we were able to find those people that we worked with over time and said, look, we have a crazy thing that we want to do. Do you guys want to come along for the ride? And they said yes. So, you know, I guess going to that point, I think the point that you're leading to is that these connections that you can make now are very important, because maybe there's someone out there that you haven't worked with yet. Here's your opportunity to find those people, find those talented people, because when you need to turn around on a set and you need a way forward, who knows, that person might have that answer for you. You know, that those people are out there and they exist, and they're wonderful, and you can find them here in a lot of cases, or maybe on the outside. But that's something you can start doing here now, building that team.
So is that the advice you give to prospective directors?
Yes. Build a team to the best of your ability. People are going to change, things are going to change, circumstances are going to change. But if you can build a team or start to build a nucleus of, a production company, whether it's in title or whatever else, that would be what I could recommend, is finding people, finding those talented cinematographers who are out there, like the gentleman in the back, that's a cinematographer. Finding those people and working with them now while you have equipment, while you have things, because it's sort of a leap. Once you get out of here, it's building this sort of safety net back up again, for yourself, making films and everything else. You have the opportunity to go do it. Just go do it right now. That's the best thing I can say.
And one other word, next project, are you looking for interns, looking for PAs?
Yes, yeah. We have a screenplay that we're very proud of called Burger Line. It's about two homeless kids who are trying to survive through a winter in West New York, New Jersey. It's a very touching script. It's about a Hispanic and a Caucasian. We really like it a lot. We're moving forward with it. So if we have positions and stuff like that, we're constantly looking for people. Especially for Film Valor and the other stuff that we're doing. I would love you guys to connect with us through YouTube or Film Valor or Facebook. I'm here, and if you guys ever have additional questions about stuff like, let's build a community, be part of our community. We'd love to do that with you guys.
Great. Any other questions? Jamison is here for the next few minutes for a while if you want to talk to him. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.